I got something a little different for today's video. I was stateside over the weekend with Bridget, and we visited the Habitat for Humanity restore in the area. And I found this. Well, first of all, just briefly, I'll show you this, which I also found. It's an Archer Universal Breadboard. Radio Shack sold this from 1984 to 1992. And then for the 1993 catalog, they updated it. They changed the layout of the breadboard, and it went from this dark blue color to black. Very nice little piece of equipment here. This back plate is metal. It's got 3 banana jacks on it, and then a nicely sized breadboard. I got this for $7. Nice piece of equipment. And now, also for $7, I got this. This is an Emerson model SCP200 electronic air cleaner. I was very intrigued when I found this. I was excited when I found this because electronic air cleaners, which are also known as electrostatic air cleaners, are very nice devices. They're very good for improving the air quality in your home. And they're kind of cool from a technical standpoint in how they work. But I was also very intrigued because of the design of this. I've never seen an air cleaner that looks quite like this. First of all, this is very big. It weighs about 30 pounds. It's all metal except for the sides, which are solid wood. That is a solid wood plank. It's not hollow. It's not veneer. That is a solid, what would you call that, 3/4 of an inch wood plank on either side of it. So all metal constructions, solid wood sides on it, and then couple it with, just the overall design of it. I figured, this must be from, earlier mid-80s, maybe even late 70s. So I was very surprised to learn that inside this is a date code from 1991. This is from 1991, which is very surprising. It looks way older than that. In 1991, Sears were selling the Kenmore electrostatic air cleaners, which were really sleek. They were tabletop units. They were only a few, 3 or 4 inches high. Really sleek, modern-looking units. And then you got this big thing from around the same time period, and it even the controls on it look archaic. So I thought, okay, this must have been sold for the commercial market or the rental market rather than in the consumer market, because this thing is so heavily built and it's so big and so heavy, and you've got, these solid wood panels on it. I thought this must have been sold for like business use, for business owners to put in their businesses. Well, research tells me, no, this was sold on the consumer market. Very likely not in retail stores like Walmart or wherever. These were probably sold at appliance dealers. But nonetheless, this was sold on the consumer market. It just happens to be extremely heavily built and kind of archaic cosmetically. I love this thing. I really love it. And I also love it because I've been using this thing since I bought it. It works perfect, it has no problems, and this thing works incredible. I can't believe how well this thing has improved the air quality in my apartment. I'm not sure yet how it's doing as far as dust pickup and stuff like that, but what it's improved greatly is the smell. This apartment, it's my own doing. It wasn't like this when I moved in, but it's just because of the amount of old electronics and stuff in here. This apartment sort of developed a bit of a smell that you could notice when you walk in. And since I've started using this thing, that smell has entirely gone away. I couldn't believe it. I did not expect that at all. I knew that that electrostatic air cleaners could help improve the smell of an indoor space, but I did not expect it to work as well as this has. So this thing is not only super rad, retro cool, but it also works incredibly well. It has been an asset to my living space here, which is awesome. So let's take a look at this thing. As I said, all metal. This sort of textured panel here sort of makes it look like an old radio. From afar, you would almost think it was some sort of old radio. You've got one control on it. It's a power switch and a speed switch. This thing has variable fan speed, completely variable. You turn it on, it's on high speed. Turn it all the way clockwise, you're on low speed. And it's got an LED power indicator. And if you look at this Emerson logo right here, I made an incorrect assumption when I first got this thing and I announced my acquisition of it on Twitter. I incorrectly assumed that this must have been made by a different Emerson than the Emerson we know that made consumer electronics, VCRs, TVs, stuff like that. Because this logo is completely different from the logo that Emerson was normally using at this time. But no, it is in fact the same Emerson. I don't know why. This must be an older version of Emerson's logo. I'm not sure why something from 1991 has this logo. My Emerson VCR from 1990 has the more modern Emerson logo. My guess is perhaps this thing was designed earlier when this logo was still in use, and then they just never bothered updating the design. That seems kind of likely considering how old this thing looks for something that was made in 1991. It probably was designed years beforehand and possibly sold for years and years with no cosmetic changes. Kind of neat. But yeah, this was made by Emerson Electric, the Emerson Electric that we're all familiar with. The identity of this thing, though, is kind of complex. This was actually sold under 3 different brand names from what I could find. Emerson was one of them. This was also sold under the White Rogers brand name. White Rogers is Emerson's indoor climate division. And then this was also sold under the Electro Air brand name. Electro Air is a brand name under Emerson. So this was sold under 3 different brand names. All of them had the same model designation, SCP200, and they all look exactly the same as far as I could tell. It seems that the White Rogers branded one is most common. Furthermore, the model designation SCP200 does not appear anywhere on this unit. There is another model designation that appears on the inside of the unit though, and that's what I ended up Googling that found me information on this thing. That model designation is 20X12A-41001. I Googled that and that's what found me all the information about this thing. So if we take a look at the side of my unit, and I say my unit because I'm not sure if these all had this, or if this is just something that somebody put on mine. It's got this electronic air cleaner wash reminder schedule. Place the schedule on or near your unit. So it must have came with this. A regular washing schedule is necessary to ensure proper performance from your electronic air cleaner. A thorough washing once every 2 months will be adequate for most installations. More frequent washings, once a month, may be necessary on some installations if, for example, you have new carpeting or there is above normal cigarette smoke, etc. Got an installation date which was not filled out. None of this was filled out. Gives how to wash instructions there. I'll let you read that on your own. Printed in the USA. So there is that. I'm thinking I might scan this. I might see if I can get a good scan of this and just reprint it and put it on here. Just so I have a nicer version of this to have on here. Just to keep it looking as nice as possible. I think that'd be cool if I can do this. If we look on the back of the unit, there's nothing to read, but you do see these mounting points. This thing was designed not only to stand on a floor if you wanted to, but also to mount on a wall in a more permanent installation, which is kind of neat. So there's that. There is another label on the bottom. Allow me to tip this thing over so we can take a look. So the sticker on the bottom gives you an electrocution warning. It says electrostatic air cleaner, UL listed. 120 volts, 60 hertz, 1.2 amps, 144 watts, which is actually lower than what I found online. The specs I found online listed this thing at 174 watts. Either way, this thing uses quite a lot of power. And then interestingly, it gives the same thing in French, even though I bought this in the United States. So that's kind of interesting. So what is an electrostatic air cleaner, and how does it differ from normal air cleaners? Well, the usual air cleaners you hear about are the ones with HEPA filters, high efficiency particulate air filters. And those are, you know, a normal air filter with like a fabric or paper-ish filter medium that, you know, the air goes through and it catches the particles in the air and stuff like that. So it's literally straining the air through a filter. Well, electrostatic air cleaners work in a completely different, and in my opinion, a way cooler fashion. An electrostatic air cleaner does not have really any sort of paper or fabric-based filter. They usually have what's called a pre-filter. It's just a loose filter to catch big stuff like big dust bunnies or lint balls or hair. They have a pre-filter to catch the big stuff. But then the main portion of the filtration process is a big cell, a big rectangular metal box that has a bunch of plates inside it. And a special high voltage power supply places a high voltage DC electrostatic charge on those plates. Inside this special box, there's also a bunch of wires, little thin metal wires that also have a high voltage placed on them so that they emit ions. So what happens is when your dirty air passes into this cell, the ions that are being generated attach themselves to the particles in the air. This could be smoke, specks of dust, whatever. But the ions attach themselves to the particles so that the particles have a negative electrostatic charge on them. And from there, the particles will flow in between a set of these plates, one of which is a positive and the other of which is negative. Now, because the particles have a negative charge on them, they're going to be repelled by the negative plates and attracted by the positive plates. So this particle of dirt, which has an ion attached to it, it's going to fly into a set of plates, and it's going to go wham and attach itself to the positive plate, being simultaneously repelled by the negative plate and attracted by the positive plate. And so your dirt particles that have ions attached to them, they are going to fly and attach themselves to the positive plates of this special cell, and they'll stay there. And that's how it collects the dirt. The dirt particles are ionized and then electrostatically attracted to this special collection cell, it's called. And that's it. From there, the air passes through a post-filter, which in this unit is, it's like the pre-filter, but it's got carbon granules inside it, and that's used as sort of a final touch for odor reduction, according to this thing's documentation. So that's how it works. High voltage, plates, ionization, really, really cool stuff, and way more interesting, I think, than a HEPA filter. Electrostatic air cleaners are not as efficient as air cleaners based on HEPA filters. HEPA filter-based air cleaners have an efficiency of greater than 99% at the first pass of cleaning the air, so that means that the first time the air goes through the system, more than 99% of the dirt is removed from the air. Electrostatic air cleaners, that's usually around the 90 to 97% range, so not as much dirt is removed from the air, so some of the outgoing air is still going to have some dirt in it, and then once that air cycles through again, then it'll pick up another 95-97%. So for the same amount of airflow, it takes more time for an electrostatic air cleaner to clean the air compared to a HEPA filter-based air cleaner. But electrostatic air cleaners have no consumables. With a HEPA filter-based air cleaner, you obviously need to replace the filter every couple of months or a few months or whatever. Electrostatic air cleaners have no consumables. You don't have to buy a new filter. When the electrostatic collection cell gets dirty, You just have to take it out and literally wash it in water, wait for it to dry for a few hours, and then put it back in, and away you go. So if you don't mind taking a bit of time to have to clean the collection cell, you save money by not having to buy new filters. Electrostatic air cleaners also have better airflow because the air doesn't have to be forced through a paper or fabric filter. The collection cell is mostly hollow. The air can just flow right through it. It just has to pass next to those plates so that it adheres to them. So that's pretty much your rundown on electrostatic air cleaners. Another cool thing about them is because of the ionization that happens, there is a minuscule amount of ozone released into the air, which makes the air smell good. I personally find the smell of ozone quite pleasant, as long as it's not too strong. So you know, the ionization alone helps the air smell a little bit fresher. So that's pretty much the rundown, but let me open this thing up so we can take a look and see what it looks like. So this front panel here comes off. You push up and pull out, and the spring-loaded feet come loose, and then it just drops down. And there is what's inside this thing. You've got a squirrel cage fan, that's right here. And this is your high voltage DC power supply that powers the collection cell. This is certified by the Association of Home Appliance Manufacturers. There's that internal model number I was talking about, date code 1991. This is an interlock switch, so the machine won't run when the front cover is removed. That's really important because, of course, you have dangerously high voltages in here. And here's our filtration section. So on the bottom, that is the air inlet. And it passes through the 3 stages of filtration, a pre-filter to trap hair and big dust bunnies and stuff like that, your electrostatic collection cell, and then the carbon granule-filled post-filter, which just helps remove odor from the clean air and stuff like that. So I'll remove them. The post filter just comes right out. You can hear the carbon granules there. So there is that. Emerson recommended that you replace this every 6 months. This one's probably the original. I'm not going to worry too much about it. And here's your important part, the electrostatic cell. So this is a bit heavy. It's a good chunk of the weight of the unit. But let me get it out here. So this is what an electrostatic air cleaner collection cell looks like. You have all these plates. Some of them are connected to the positive side of the high voltage. Some of them are connected to the negative side. If we turn it around, right here you can see some dirt. I have washed this thing, but wow, it's really dirty. Wow, so this has done a really good job collecting the dirt out of the air. This is the first time I've looked at this thing since I cleaned it. When I initially cleaned this thing, I got a lot of the loose dust off, but there was some sticky grime on there that didn't come off. Emerson actually recommends you let this soak in water with dishwasher soap for an hour and then rinse it and then let it dry off. I just sprayed it clean. I didn't use dish soap or let it soak or anything like that. I should probably do that at some point. But wow, this thing did... You can see just this immediate dirt that's loose. This is stuff that it's pulled out of the air in here since I started using it. That's really cool. You can also see the little corona wires that emit the electrons. So that's the big part of the show. And then below that is your pre-filter, which you just need to rinse off once in a while. I did rinse this off, and it looks like it really hasn't trapped anything since I washed it off. But yeah, there you go. So the collection cell connects to one side of the power supply through this contact right here. And the other side, it just connects through grounding through the case of the air cleaner. And that's about it. And again, these solid wood sides are just so surprising. I should probably give the inside of this thing a clean at some point. The air cleaner itself is a little bit dirty, especially behind that squirrel cage fan there, you can see. But yeah, that's more or less it. So I'll put the pre-filter back in, put the collection cell back in, making sure that it's the right orientation. Like that. And then the post filter. Like that. And to put the front panel back on, make sure it's oriented right so that little tab there pushes on the interlock switch. Line up the bottom, push her in, and that's it. So let me plug this thing in and we'll turn it on. So one funny characteristic of electrostatic air cleaners is when you turn them on for the first time after either washing the collection cell or just moving the collection cell, just disturbing it, which causes, respectively either water or dirt to bridge a set of collection plates, it'll of course arc over and you'll get a snap. It can be a little bit startling, but it's nothing bad happening. All electrostatic air cleaners do it sometimes, and after a few seconds it settles down. So let me turn this on. I'll start on high speed. We'll see if it does any snapping. Nope, no snapping. And once it's down to low speed, it's very quiet. I've just been leaving this at the lowest speed while I'm here during the afternoon and evening. But when I go to bed, what I've been doing is turning it up like midway. Like that. And this thing sits over there, and I turn it up about this high, and it provides just enough noise to provide a good source of white noise, background noise, to help me sleep at night. I've always needed some source of white noise, usually a fan running in the room, to help me sleep. But being winter, it's not very fun to run a fan in my room, even one pointed away from the bed. But I have this sitting over in the corner of this room, fan speed turned up midway. It provides a perfectly good source of background noise. That's what I've been doing. But even on the lowest fan speed, this has done a remarkable job helping this place smell better. Evidently, it's been catching a lot of air. This thing works incredibly well. I'm really happy I bought it. And it's cool having that completely variable fan speed. The fan vibrates a little bit sometimes. You just gotta adjust the speed right where it stops vibrating. But yeah, really nice, and I can smell that just a hint of ozone from the ionization, and it's a pleasant smell to me. And that's about it. It's a very quirky air cleaner. It's super heavily built for a consumer device. It looks so much older than something that was sold in 1991. It's got some really overbuilt design choices like the solid wood sides, and the variable speed is a really nice feature. It's just a really heavily built piece of equipment, and it works really well. It's really nice. It works incredibly well. I'm really glad I spent the $7. It has improved the air quality in my apartment, and it's just a really cool retro-looking thing to look at. So there you go. That's the Emerson Model SCP200 electrostatic air cleaner from 1991. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.